As someone who's lost all interest in The Walking Dead, both as a television series and an abruptly ended comic book line, Saints and Sinners caught me off guard. Honestly, I had expected a slapdash VR version of the critically panned Walking Dead Survival Instinct or some other derivative product designed to make a quick buck or two. Shame on me. Saints and Sinners is actually a decent, no, a pretty great zombie video game that just so happens to be a licensed Walking Dead adventure. There's little in this game that connects to the larger canon of either book or show, leaving it to be its own little pocket galaxy inside Robert Kirkman's universe. Bearing a resemblance to Ubisoft's Wii U launch title ZombiU, Saints and Sinners is a strong VR survival horror roguelike set in the middle of an unrelenting zombie apocalypse 10 years after the initial outbreak. Rather than take control of a mainline character from the source material, Saints and Sinners has you playing as the Tourist, a notable outsider that has traveled to the flooded city of New Orleans in search for a prize colloquially known as the Reserves. As local legend tells it, just as the outbreak was beginning to wreak havoc, someone managed to hide a massive stockpile of medical supplies, food, and weapons that people have been trying to find ever since. In that time, New Orleans has become a supremely dangerous place inhabited by a growing number of walkers, and the remaining humans are left to huddle among different factions, each looking to find the reserves and kill those that get in their way. The search for the stockpile involves interacting with the locals, some good and many of them bad. The mission is performed exclusively using the PlayStation VR headset, which offers an uncomfortably close view of the action. You'll interact with the environment using the PlayStation Move wands to pick up items, rifle through cabinets and desks, fire weapons, and bash zombie heads in with single and double-handed weapons. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is a game about survival. The journey to the reserves is marked by a series of mainline missions that lead the player through different areas of the city, each more dangerous than the last. Exploration takes center stage because each mission area encourages you to search every nook and cranny for items that can be salvaged and converted into usable crafting materials. Crafting is done at your base of operations, a small compound located inside a cemetery that serves as a brief but tense respite from the horror. Recycling items found in the city, which range from boxes of razor blades, broken guns, aluminum cans, and other innocuous goods, lets you create new and better weapons, food, and medicine, and character upgrades. It's really easy to be overwhelmed and struggle at the start of the game, so there's no shame in holding off on the main story in favor of taking on smaller side quests and gathering supplies. To better simulate the experience of survival, Saints and Sinners uses a health system that tracks numerous physical conditions beyond simple HP bars. Running, climbing, be it over short walls or scaling buildings, and melee combat slowly drains stamina until the player is forced to stop and catch their breath at the risk of being caught by a walker or falling off the edge of a building they were climbing. You're also susceptible to hunger and thirst, and if left unchecked, the amount of available stamina drains until you find something to eat. However, food found out in the city is often rotten and inflicts a disease condition that significantly impacts the amount of health the character can max out. These mechanics only emphasize how important it is to properly prepare and stock up on clean food and bandages and weapons before heading out. Whatever your reason for heading out into the Big Easy, whether it's to gain leads on the location of the reserves or scavenge materials, time spent outside the save zone is governed by a church bell that lies deep in the heart of the city. On top of tracking health and stamina, a wristwatch counts down the time until that church bell rings, beeping occasionally to help you keep an eye on the time. That's because when the church bell rings, the area slowly gets swarmed by hordes and hordes of walkers. Retreating to the base camp is the best strategy at this point, lest you get overwhelmed by the shuffling hordes and risk getting killed. Back at the camp, there's not much to do except break down any materials gathered and call it a night. Sleeping advances the time by 1 day, but also steadily increases the number of zombies encountered in the city. Sooner or later, the only thing standing between you and the way out is a walker, and there's no other choice but to fight. Saints and Sinners melee combat is some of the best VR action I've experienced on the platform, and I get an unnerving, visceral thrill in taking walkers out. Following the grand tradition of zombie fiction, walkers can only be killed with a severe blow to the head. There's a laundry list of traditional and improvised melee weapons at your disposal, such as combat knives, shivs, screwdrivers, and two-handed weapons like fire axes that'll let you accomplish this. Blunt weapons are fine and dandy, but it's the sharper tools that give me the feeling of dark joy. Using your dominant hand, you'll mimic stabbing motions with the PlayStation Move to drive the pointed end into whatever is left of the undead brain and then yank it back out. Glass bottles are fun to use because they can be smashed against any surface before being planted in a walker's face. Weapons such as these can be used several times before they break, though some objects are more resilient than others. Though the spectacle is grim and horrifying, I speak with all honesty to say that jabbing sharp pointing things into zombies is the greatest, most cathartic thing ever. Firearms are a bit of a different and not quite as fun story because bullets are scarce and better served against human opponents who can actually defend themselves. I didn't like using guns as much given the long-running issues the PlayStation VR has with camera tracking. A lot of PSVR games have had problems with jittery in-game hands, making it difficult to pull off precision shots at a distance. Even something as simple as a bow and arrow can be tricky to use because of the unexpected and uncontrolled last-minute shift of the hands. Avoiding combat altogether is an option by seeking out alternate access ways into compounds when searching for mission-critical items. Killing humans has the added negative effect of turning them into walkers when they die, thereby increasing the number of enemies to deal with. But hey, at least zombies can't use handguns. Well, yet. Eventually, you'll succumb to the dangers of New Orleans antagonists and die, leaving behind the collection of items scrounged along the way. If you can reach the bag safely, the loot is put back into your possession. If something kills you before reaching the pack, then all of those items you collected are lost for good. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is a rock-solid zombie survival horror game that uses the PlayStation VR to create a great feeling of atmosphere and terror as you wade through the dark and foreboding neighborhoods of a city taken by the undead. As immersive as the game may be, the scaredy cat in me wished I could play without the headset because I absolutely refused to walk through darkened spaces knowing that a zombie was just around the corner waiting to eat my face. From a more practical standpoint, a non-VR edition would make shooting and movement a little easier to grasp because trying to aim at quick-moving targets with a control system that has a history of tracking concerns can get a little trying. And even though I like using the move wands to clamber over walls and up water drains, mapping standard movement to the face buttons is never comfortable. Here's hoping that Move version 2 adds analog sticks like the PlayStation Aim. Despite some clunkiness of the control system, Saints and Sinners is a fun and challenging VR survival game that is also a case for not judging a book by its cover. Bored as I am with Robert Kirkman's zombie series, there's no reason not to add this to your PSVR collection. DarkStation gives The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners 4 stars.